Introduction: a small Argentine in a big city. Picture this. September 2000, Barcelona, a city that eats dreams for breakfast. On the training pitch at Mini Estadi, a kid stands alone, 13 years old, 4'7". Looks like a strong breeze could knock him over. His name? Lionel Messi. And at that moment, nobody, and I mean nobody, knows they're looking at the future greatest footballer who ever lived. Here's what they do see: a medical problem, growth hormone deficiency. His body literally can't grow without expensive treatment. $900 a month. For a working-class family from Rosario, Argentina, that's impossible money. So his father, Jorge, made a desperate gamble. Packed up the family, left everything behind, flew to Barcelona with one hope: that FC Barcelona would pay for the treatment and give his son a shot. But Barcelona? They're not convinced. At all. The Messi family is crammed into a tiny apartment. Jorge is doing odd jobs for the club just to keep them afloat. And the medical bills? Piling up like unpaid debts. Every injection his son needs is a countdown timer ticking toward the moment they'll have to pack up and fly back to Argentina in defeat. September. The trial. Lionel steps onto that pitch under the Barcelona sun. The coaches are watching, whispering to each other. And you can almost hear what they're thinking. Is this a genius? Or just a very small boy? But then something happens. 3 minutes. That's all it takes. 3 minutes of Lionel Messi touching a football, and Carles Rexach, Barcelona's technical director, stops walking, stops talking, just stands there, frozen, like he's seeing something that shouldn't exist. He turns to the coaches and says 5 words that will change football history. Sign him. Don't even think. But here's the thing about bureaucracy, about committees, about big institutions. They love to think. They love to hesitate. They love to play it safe. And that hesitation? It almost cost Barcelona the greatest player of all time. Because by December, the club still hasn't made it official. No contract, no signatures, just promises. And Jorge Messi, he's had enough of promises. On December 13th, 2000, he picks up the phone. And he tells Rexach something that sends panic through Barcelona's offices. We're leaving, tomorrow, first flight back to Argentina. And that's when a tennis club, a napkin, and a blue ballpoint pen enter football history. But to understand why that napkin matters, you need to know what was happening behind Barcelona's closed doors. Because while Jorge Messi was threatening to leave, there was a war going on inside the club.
Block 2. Discovering Talent. The Men Who Saw Gold. Let's rewind 2 years. 1998. Barcelona. Horacio Gaggioli, an Argentine transfer agent living in the city, receives a VHS tape in the mail. It's from Rosario, from a youth club called Newell's Old Boys. The label just says, Lionel Messi, 11 years old. Now, Gaggioli gets tapes like this all the time. Every week, some desperate parent or hopeful coach sends him footage of the next Maradona. Most of them, they're not even close. But he puts this one in the VCR, presses play, and within minutes, he's leaning forward in his chair, rewinding, watching it again. Because what he's seeing doesn't make sense. This kid is tiny, visibly smaller than everyone else on the pitch. But the way he moves, the way the ball seems magnetically attached to his feet, the way he glides past defenders like they're standing still, Gaggioli would later say, I saw something special in him despite his height. But here's the problem. Convincing FC Barcelona to look at an 11-year-old Argentine kid with a medical disorder, that's not easy. Big clubs don't take risks on children who need medical treatment. They want guarantees. They want sure things. So Gaggioli reaches out to Josep Minguella, a Catalan scout with connections deep inside Barça. Minguella watches the tape, and he sees it too. The gift, the magic, the thing you can't teach. February 2000, 2 years after that VHS tape arrived, they finally get their shot. They convince the club to bring the Messi family over for a trial. It's not official. It's not even a real tryout at first, more like, let's take a look and see what she. But Gaggioli and Minguella know what they're doing. They're not just bringing a player, they're bringing a dream. And they're betting everything on it. Because here's what most people don't realize. If those two men hadn't pushed, if they hadn't believed, if they hadn't insisted on that trial, Messi might have ended up at Real Madrid or Atletico, or back in Argentina playing in local leagues while his talent slowly faded into what could have been. Instead, they got him in front of Carles Rexach. And Rexach, he saw what Gaggioli and Minguella had been trying to tell everyone. But seeing talent is one thing. Signing it when your own club is fighting you, that's where things get complicated. Because by late 2000, Barcelona's board of directors had made their position very clear. Signing a 13-year-old with medical problems was too risky, too expensive, too uncertain. And Rexach was running out of time.
Block 3. The Men Who Bet Everything. September 2000. Iniesta D training ground. Carles Rexach is pacing along the sideline. He's Barcelona's technical director. Basically, he's the guy who decides which players are worth the club's money and which ones aren't. He's seen thousands of trials, watched countless prodigies come and go. He's been doing this for years. You don't impress Carles Rexach easily. But then, this 13-year-old Argentine kid touches the ball, and Rexach stops walking. Just stops. 3 minutes. That's how long it takes. He turns to the coaching staff standing nearby and says, flat out, sign him. Don't think about it. If anyone asks, this is my responsibility. My responsibility. Think about what that means. Rexach is putting his entire career on the line for a kid who's barely a teenager. A kid with a medical condition that requires expensive treatment. A kid who, let's be honest, looks like he might blow away in a strong wind. And here's the thing. Inside Barcelona's offices, people are whispering. You can almost hear it echoing through the hallways. Rexach has lost his mind. This is too risky. The kid's too young, too small, too expensive. But Rexach doesn't care because he knows what he saw. And what he saw was something that doesn't come along twice in a lifetime. So he goes to the club president, John Gaspart, and he makes his case. He becomes the father of this deal, pushing, convincing, insisting that Barcelona cannot let this kid slip away. Meanwhile, Horacio Gaggioli is working behind the scenes. He's the Argentine agent who brought Messi to Barcelona's attention in the first place. And now he's holding the whole thing together, calling people, making connections, keeping the Messi family calm while the bureaucracy grinds slowly forward. He's living in Barcelona. He knows how this city works. He knows how the club works. And he knows that if they don't move fast, someone else will. Because Real Madrid is lurking. Atletico Madrid is sniffing around. Other European clubs are starting to hear whispers about this magical little Argentine kid. But here's the brutal reality. It's December now. 3 months since that trial. 3 months of waiting. 3 months of nothing but promises and delays. And Jorge Messi, Lionel's father, has had enough. He's watching his son train without a contract. He's paying for medical treatments out of pocket that they can't afford. He's living in a cramped apartment in a foreign city, wondering if they made a terrible mistake. On December 13th, 2000, he picks up the phone and calls Rexach. And he says something that sends ice through Rexach's veins. We're leaving tomorrow. First flight back to Argentina. This is over. And that's when Rexach realizes all the convincing, all the pushing, all the promises, none of it matters if the kid gets on that plane. So Rexach does something desperate. He calls Gaggioli and Minguella. "Meet me tomorrow," he says. "We're fixing this tonight." And that's how three men end up at a tennis club on December 14th, with no contract, no lawyers, and no official paperwork. Just a napkin and a blue pen.
Block 4. Deadline. When everything hung by a thread. November, December, 2000. The Messi family is living in limbo. Jorge wakes up every morning hoping today will be the day Barcelona makes it official. Every morning, nothing happens. The board of directors? They're not budging. Their position is clear, too risky for a 13-year-old. What if the treatment doesn't work? What if he never grows? What if we're throwing money at a gamble? And you know what? From their perspective, it makes sense. Big institutions don't like risk. They like certainty, safe bets, proven commodities. But this isn't a commodity. This is a 13-year-old boy whose childhood is ticking away while committees debate spreadsheets. Here's what's at stake for Lionel Messi. If this deal doesn't happen, he goes back to Argentina. No treatment, no European football. His body stays small. His dream stays in Rosario. End of story. For Barcelona, they lose the greatest footballer who will ever play for them. Simple as that. But they don't know that yet. They're still arguing about risk management and budget allocations. And Jorge Messi? He's watching his son train with kids who have contracts, who have futures, who have certainty. Meanwhile, his family is barely scraping by in a foreign city, paying for injections they can't afford, waiting for a phone call that never comes. December 13th, 2000. Jorge picks up the phone and he calls Carles Rexach. "We're done. Tomorrow, first flight out. We're going home." And here's where it gets interesting. Some people inside Barcelona thought this was a bluff. Whispers started circulating, conspiracy theories really, that the agents, Gaggioli and Minguella, were manipulating the family's desperation, playing hardball to force the club's hand. Maybe it was strategy. Maybe it was real desperation. Maybe it was both. But Rexach? He doesn't care about the politics. He hears panic in Jorge's voice. He hears a father who's ready to pack his bags and disappear. And Rexach knows, if that family gets on a plane tomorrow, it's over. Real Madrid will swoop in. Atletico will make an offer. Some other club will promise the moon and actually deliver. So he makes a decision. A reckless, career-risking, I don't care what the board says decision. He calls Gaggioli, he calls Minguella. "Meet me tomorrow, Pompeia Tennis Club, after my tennis match. We're ending this." No lawyers, no contracts, no official documents. Just three men who believe in a 13-year-old kid. And one napkin that's about to change football history.
Block 5. The Napkin. December 14th, 2000. December 14th, 2000. Early afternoon. Pompeia Tennis Club, Montjuic, Barcelona. Three men sit at a table. They've just finished playing tennis. They're still in their casual clothes, shorts, polo shirts, the kind of thing you wear when you're not thinking about making history. Carles Rexach, Josep Minguella, and Horacio Gaggioli. The table between them has coffee cups, a few scattered items, nothing formal, nothing prepared. This isn't a boardroom. There are no lawyers here, no contracts waiting to be signed. Just three men, and a phone call that's tearing Rexach's apart. Because on the other end of that line is Jorge Messi, and Jorge is done waiting. "Carles," he says, and you can hear the exhaustion in his voice, the desperation. "We're leaving. Today. Tomorrow at the latest. I need proof. Something. Anything. Or we're on the next plane to Rosario." Rexach looks at Minguella, then at Gaggioli. They all know what this moment means. This is it. The end of the road. Either they do something right now, or Lionel Messi walks out of their lives forever. Rexach reaches into his pocket, looking for paper. Something official, something that looks like a contract. Nothing. He looks around the table, still nothing. And then he sees it. A white paper napkin. Standard issue, the kind you use to wipe your hands after lunch. He picks it up, pulls out a blue ballpoint pen from his pocket. The only way to calm Jorge down, Rexach would later say, was to sign something, to give him proof. So, he starts writing, his hand moving across that thin, fragile napkin. You can almost hear the scratch of the pen, the silence of the tennis club around them, the weight of what he's about to do. In Barcelona, on 14 December 2000, and despite some dissenting opinions, Carles Rexach, FC Barcelona's technical secretary, commits to signing the player Lionel Messi. Despite some dissenting opinions. That's not legal language. That's a man telling the board of directors, "I don't care what you think, I'm doing this anyway." Provided we agree on the amounts we have discussed. He signs his name. Then he slides the napkin to Minguella. Minguella signs. Then Gaggioli. 3 signatures, blue ink on a napkin. Rexach picks up the phone. "Jorge," he says, "it's done. Your son is a Barcelona player. We've signed it, all 3 of us. You have our word." There's a pause on the other end of the line. You can imagine Jorge Messi standing in that cramped apartment, holding the phone, trying to process what he just heard. "How do I know this is real?" he asks. "Because I've bet my entire career on it." And just like that, football history is written on a napkin at a tennis club. No lawyers, no ceremony, just 3 men who believed in a 13-year-old boy. That evening, Joan Gaspar, Barcelona's president, officially ratifies the deal. The paperwork begins. The medical treatment gets approved. The Messi family stays in Barcelona. And that napkin, it sits in a drawer. A piece of tissue paper that 24 years later will sell at auction for nearly $1 million. But on that December afternoon in 2000, it's just a napkin, a promise, a gamble, and the beginning of everything. So, what happened next? Well, you probably know the ending. 8 Ballon d'Ors, hundreds of goals, a World Cup, the greatest footballer who ever lived. But here's what people forget.
Block 6. Aftermath. The napkin that changed everything. Imagine being Jorge Messi that morning, December 14th, before that phone call. You're standing in a cramped Barcelona apartment. Your son is sitting on the couch, looking at you with those eyes that ask, "Dad, are we going home?" And you're on your computer, searching for flights back to Rosario, checking prices, looking at departure times. Everything feels like it's collapsing. You made a gamble. You brought your family across the ocean, and now it looks like you lost. But then, your phone rings. And 6 hours later, everything changes. That evening, December 14th, 2000, Joan Gaspar, Barcelona's president, officially ratifies the deal. The medical treatment gets approved. The paperwork begins. Jorge Messi doesn't pack those bags. His son stays in Barcelona. And the napkin? It goes into a drawer. Carles Rexach keeps it in his desk for 20 years. Just sitting there, a piece of tennis club tissue paper that saved a career. But here's what the story gets messy, because that napkin, it becomes the center of a very strange dispute. Horacio Gaggioli, the Argentine agent who signed it, keeps the napkin. He moves to Andorra, and for years, it just sits there, tucked away, while Lionel Messi becomes, well, Lionel Messi. 8 Ballon d'Ors, 4 Champions League titles, a World Cup, hundreds of goals, the greatest footballer who has ever lived. And that napkin? It's worth more than anyone could have imagined. 2024, 24 years after it was written, Bonham's auction house in London announces the napkin that brought Messi to Barcelona up for auction. The estimate? $300,000, maybe more. But then things get weird. Josep Minguella, the other agent who signed it, starts making claims. That napkin should be mine. Ownership disputes, legal questions, conspiracy theories about whether it's even the real napkin. Some people whisper, what if it's a fake? What if there were multiple napkins? The auction gets delayed. Experts examine the ink, the signatures, the paper itself. And then finally, in May 2024, the hammer falls. $965,000, almost $1 million for a napkin. But think about what that napkin represents. It's not just paper and ink. It's a promise made when everything was falling apart. It's 3 men betting their reputations on a kid nobody believed in. It's a father who almost gave up, and a club that almost made the biggest mistake in sports history. Without that napkin, Messi might have gone back to Argentina, might have tried out for Real Madrid or Atletico, might have ended up playing in local leagues wondering what could have been. Instead, he became the greatest. And Barcelona, they got 20 years of magic. All because 3 men sat down at a tennis club and refused to let bureaucracy kill a dream. So yeah, a napkin, blue ink, 3 signatures, and football history written on something you'd use to wipe your hands after lunch. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button and subscribe, because this is what happens when you dig into sports history. You find moments that sound impossible, but are absolutely true. Drop a comment and tell me, where are you watching from? What's your age? I want to know who's out there loving these stories as much as I do. And if you want more deep dives into the moments that changed sports forever, stick around, because there are so many more stories like this waiting to be told.
Block 7. Legacy. What the napkin really means. So let's talk about what that napkin actually represents. Because it's not just about Lionel Messi. It's not even just about FC Barcelona. It's about something deeper. Something that every institution, every company, every organization, every bureaucracy struggles with. The ability to recognize genius when it doesn't fit the spreadsheet. Think about it. Barcelona's board of directors looked at a 13-year-old with a medical condition and saw risk, numbers, probabilities, financial exposure. Carles Rexach looked at the same kid and saw magic. And that napkin? That's the moment when belief won over bureaucracy. Fast forward, 20-plus years. Lionel Messi retires from Barcelona having scored 672 goals in 778 appearances. He wins 8 Ballon d'Ors, the most in history, 4 Champions League titles, 10 La Liga championships, and in 2022, the one thing that had eluded him his entire career, the World Cup. He becomes not just Barcelona's greatest player, not just Argentina's greatest player, but arguably the greatest footballer who has ever lived. All because 3 men at a tennis club refused to let the word no be the final answer. And here's the beautiful irony. That napkin, bought at auction for $965,000 in 2024, is worth less than a single week of Messi's salary at the peak of his career. But it's priceless in a different way. It's proof that sometimes the most important decisions aren't made in boardrooms. They're made at lunch tables, in moments of desperation, by people willing to bet everything on something they can't prove, only feel. Barcelona's La Masia Academy, the legendary youth system that produced Xavi, Iniesta, Puyol, and countless others, learned something from that napkin too. Trust young talent. Invest in potential. Don't let bureaucracy kill dreams. The napkin became a symbol, not just of Messi's journey, but of what happens when you choose courage over caution. So the next time you're faced with a decision, whether it's about hiring someone, starting a project, or taking a chance on something that looks risky on paper, remember this: the greatest footballer in history was signed on a napkin by a man who watched him play for 3 minutes and said, "Sign him, don't think." Sometimes you just know. And when you know, don't wait for permission. Don't wait for the perfect contract. Don't wait for consensus. Grab a napkin, grab a pen, and write history. If this story inspired you, smash that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment. Tell me where you're from and how old you are. I love hearing some people all over the world who appreciate these incredible moments in sports history. Because here's the thing, there are thousands of stories like this. Moments when everything hung by a thread, when one decision changed everything, when someone believed when nobody else did. And I'm going to keep telling them, so stick around, because the best stories, they're the ones that sound impossible, but are absolutely true. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.